Hi, and how you doing today? I don't know who Betsy De Vos is. I really don't. I have no idea who she really is. I just know that she was appointed as the head of the school department for the United States of America by that man. And I've heard talk that she doesn't know anything about public school because she's never been involved in the public school system. And she's in charge of the whole Department of Education for the United States. And so I find that to be kind of crazy because, first of all, the primary institution of education in the United States is the public school systems. The majority of people that we know, including myself and maybe even you've gone through the public school system. And so therefore, basically almost all of us have graduated through the public school system. So for somebody to be appointed the head of the school department for the United States of America, to be the head of the Department of Education, and to not have any basic knowledge or working knowledge of the school department seems kind of like crazy to me. And then, of course, she has said some, things that like as though she has no clear-cut understanding. She's a woman who loves the voucher system. She believes that the voucher system is the way in which our school department is supposed to go, and that this will be a better method of educating our children, and that you'll take your voucher and you go to the school of your choice. However, you must know, as I know, that for the most part, when you have these schools with these vouchers, or any kind of school where you have to go in and present them with something, that leaves them up to being able to say yay or nay to your child as to whether they will accept your child. And many of them will probably have more than their share of people coming in with vouchers. And they're going to be able to pick and choose what students they will allow into their schools. So therefore, if your child is not one of one of those students who are in the top level of this or that, or if your child is having some kind of problem or situation, then your child is going to be very hard to place. And what school is going to want to accept your child or your voucher? And then I can see schools that will not accept any vouchers, because they don't want children who have vouchers, which means that they're going to they want parents who have money for their children to come into their school systems. We know that basically this is how the private Catholic schools operate. You've got to pay to go there. My son started off in the Catholic school system. I had to pay for him to be there. Okay? As he went along in time, he went into the public school system. And then I took him into the charter school system. All right. And when that was the biggest mistake I could have done, when I brought my son into the charter school. Now, I know all charter schools are not alike. This charter school was supposed to be, or at least ways it was passed off to me to be a school of excellence, where college prep was going to be, and all the students there were on their way to college. However, that was not the situation at all. The situation really was that this was a school that had written up their charter for the children that had problems. A lot of them were latchkey kids, or kids who just get out of prison, or day students, or whatever they called them. I don't know. I forgot what the name they had. All right. However, they had a name, and they were kids who were out of jail. And so here goes my son, who'd never been in jail, never had those kinds of problems. Now I put him into this school believing he's going to be in a college prep. Lo and behold, we get into December. I found the school didn't even have any books. They didn't have any books. Not only did I discover they didn't have any books, I discovered that the teachers in that school were not certified teachers. You know that charter schools can just pick people off the street to come in and teach your children, people who have never had any educational training to be teachers. I thought everybody who was teaching children had to go to college and had to learn and get a degree in education and take all those exams and know how to do all. No. Not in charter schools, they don't. They don't have to do that for charter schools. Charter schools allow them to not have to have all of those things. They don't need any degrees. They don't need all of that. They just need to walk in and fill out an application, and to people interview them, like them, hire them. And they never had needed to teach anybody, never had to be a teacher in all the days of it. Could have been a fact, could have been anything. Passed the interview, and now they're teaching your children. Well, what about the level of education? What about training? What about being able to teach math and the other things that need to be taught? What about all of that? So you're bringing in unlearned people with no real knowledge of teaching? That's the charter school system. So when I went to the school department and complained about this charter school, they told me they couldn't do anything because the school department for our state didn't have anything to do with charter schools. Charter schools were independent of our state board of ed. And I couldn't believe that. How are these little charter schools setting up and getting this money, and they're independent of the board of ed for the state? I couldn't understand that. But they were. And I put my son in this school, believing that he was going to get a good and great education. And it was school with some black people, and they were in charge of the school, and then this and that. Every school that got black people is not going to be a good school. So I had to take my son out of that school. It wasn't until, first of all, I got arrested in the school. I used to come and sit in my son's class. I got arrested. In charter schools, parents are to work hand in hand with the school. The parents have a large part to do with the charter schools. And in that part, you also have, you come in and you can sit and so on in the class. And you have all kinds of teachers' meetings, and you have all kinds of meetings with the staff and all kinds of things like that. You had all these different kind of meetings in the evening. And they would be talking about the problems, and you'll be learning different things about the school and what was going on. But it wasn't until a week or so before Christmas that we had a meeting with students that were in the school. And that is when I found out the school didn't have any books, because that's when the students came in and talked to the parents. Everything that we had been hearing from the head of the school, and those basically was the head of the school, because we never really had any teachers come in to talk. All the reports that we were getting were false. He was not telling us the truth, and it was not till the students came in and talked to us themselves that we get a full and clear understanding of exactly what was going on in that school. And that was the charter school systems do not get policed by the board of ed. And so therefore, if you put your child into any school, you don't know what they're going to do. And we've had several charter schools that have closed up because they failed to meet certain standards. And so when you start talking to us about charter schools and you start talking to us about vouchers, I'm going to tell you, it sounds like our kids are going to be left behind. Because when you come in with these vouchers, and these schools that are more prominent take on the students that they want, because it's going to be selective. They're going to be able to pick and choose students. So where does your child fall in that choice? If your child doesn't meet the standards of these schools and you got a voucher, or the school won't accept your voucher. So our system of education is being undermined once again. The first time our system was undermined was when this woman, singing single-handedly, I don't even know this woman's name, decided that she wanted to have prayer removed out of the schools. It wasn't a big group of people. It wasn't this, large number. It wasn't a church group, or it was an atheist woman who decided that she didn't like school prayer being in the schools. And so she went into the court and filed a lawsuit against the prayer being in the school for the removal of prayer out of school. Did it not happen? Yes, it did. So that was a white woman who undermined and took out prayer out of schools. So now what we have in school is what came in following that was, if you remember when prayer first got out, let me back it up. When prayer first got out of schools, and if you remember this, prayer first got out of schools, what was it? It was that you could pray silently. And eventually that was removed. And then it got down to where there'd just be a moment of silence. And eventually that was removed. Then they decided, okay, we got prayer out of school. Let's take them in to get rid of home ec and all of that. And let's bring in sex education. So here they go now, and they're starting what? To hand out condoms in the schools. Now this says it's okay for y'all to have sex. You just need to be protected. So now our school systems are full of little mothers and fathers. High school and even middle school, full of little mothers and fathers, because they got rid of prayer out of school and brought in sex education. They began to teach them about sex, something they didn't need to teach children about, but they brought it in, and they began to give them condoms. And now we have this massive problem where all our children, basically a lot of them, tons of them, almost all of them, the majority of the girls now are mothers in school. We didn't have that before. And then you have what we have right now, this woman, this Betsy De Vos, this woman, who's the head of the school department, the Board of Ed for the United States of America. And this woman now likes vouchers. And she's going to implement that the public school system gets derailed. And that we now put in this thing called vouchers. And the children take vouchers and they go to the school of their choice. Okay, so they can choose a school, but what if the school doesn't choose you? So now we're going to come back to where there'll only be certain schools that our children will be able to go to, because they're not going to be chosen. They're not going to be chosen for these elite schools. They will only choose the children that they want to have. And so the children who are not part of the elite, and maybe they're not the right color or ethnicity, won't be able to get into these schools. So now we've got a new form of segregation by way of voucher. By way of vouchers. And here is this woman, this head of the Board of Ed, who said, well, you see what the black colleges and universities basically have been doing this all along. They have been institutions that are basically like vouchers, where people go, they choose black people choose to send their kids to these black institutions. No, Betsy De Vos, the black institutions that are college institutions didn't get started that way. They got started because of racism. Our children were locked out. Black children couldn't go to any schools. We had to fight to get. Do you not remember Arkansas and that little girl in that picture with the guards, the Army Reserves walking beside her as she walks into the school? They had to lead her in, and the people are standing there. The white people are standing there and jeering and yelling and shouting at her. Do you not remember that picture? I mean, I can't even remember the little girl's name. It's a popular picture. That guy, some painter even painted it. My Lord, have mercy. Have mercy, have mercy, have mercy. So now the whole school system is going to be uprooted and disrupted once again. First prayer and some white woman. Now another white woman coming in and throwing us into a voucher system. A voucher system like food stamps and all. It sounds like it's something made up to make sure black people stay in their place. And voucher system. Vouchers. Why? Well, we need a voucher system. Good grief. So you have this woman, and now she's the head of the school department, and she likes vouchers, and she equates them to historical black college and universities and saying that they're one and the same, they're similar, without any knowledge. Now, this is an educated support. I don't know how much of it. First of all, I believe that's the problem. She never got a college education. She's not. Don't you believe that a woman who should be or anyone who should be the head of the national Department of Education should have a higher degree than most of the teachers that are sitting in the school and not have less than a teacher going into school? But she doesn't. She comes with none of the paperwork. She doesn't have those advanced degrees. So she can make stupid statements like equating historically black universities and colleges with vouchers of choice and saying it becomes your choice. No, it wasn't our choice in the beginning to have black colleges and universities. It was something forced upon us because, like most things else in America, we were subject to, if we didn't create our own, we wouldn't have nothing. And so you saw the rise of black businesses. When you saw those in Oklahoma and Florida and other places with these little hubs of business, black people opening up businesses and banks and all of these things, which were burnt down and destroyed by the white people when they became too prosperous and successful in what they were doing. But the black colleges and universities flourished. We know that the black institutions have always been the places where the majority of the black professionals emerged from. I even read that 70% of the doctors come out of black doctors come out of black institutions. 85% of the black professionals come out of historically black colleges and universities. Why? Because we have always known that we had to excel. We were taught, and when I say taught, I'm talking about we, my generation, and those shortly after me and above me. We were taught that if we wanted to succeed in life, we had to do better. We had to be better at things than white people were, which meant we had to learn. We had to study. We had to train. We had to work harder. That's what it meant. That's what it meant. To be more successful in this world, and yet go on into a job and find that people who are less trained, incapable of handling positions were your boss and supervisors. We faced that for years, being more qualified and many times having to train those white people who soon became our bosses. This is the legacy of this country, of racism in this country. And here comes this woman in the school department who's getting ready to turn the whole public education system over, to uproot it totally and destroy it. And want to equate what she is doing and getting ready to do with historically black colleges and universities and why they came to be. There were black people who wanted to go to Ole Miss, the University of Mississippi, who wanted to go to the University of Florida. This is why A&M colleges were set up. Black institutions were set up that black people might go and learn and study and excel when white institutions would not allow us the opportunity to do so, would not accept our applications for admission And so black people began going to black institutions that were set up for the purpose of educating black professionals and training them. So Betsy De Vos, get your facts straight. You cannot be the head of education without being educated on the facts of why learning institutions such as the historically black college and universities came about. What else are you getting wrong? What else don't you know? You have limited understanding of anything. And you're walking and sitting in a position of power blindly. And you will only destroy the school system. This system is set up that every child must be educated. And you're going to come in with a voucher system that is a selective process. And you may take your voucher to wherever you want to take it, but it doesn't mean they have to take you or your child. To God be the glory. This, my Lord. We got a bunch of insane people sitting in the White House right now, making insane decisions. Don't know what they're doing, but they're getting ready to uproot everything in this country as we know it. And we must pray. To God be the glory. Bye-bye.